Hi, my name is Kyle Jaeger, and today I'm going to be going over some workspace essentials for Excel for action printing. And this may not be for everyone, but this is just to refresh people upon some things that they possibly didn't know within Excel. So without further ado, I'm just going to be listing off where things may be within certain places on Excel. So up here we have the ribbon tabs, and the home one will have pretty much everything you may need. There's a lot of shortcuts here to other ribbons, as I'll go over later. The insert, there will be a whole bunch of graphs, pivot tables, as well as spark lines, which we may go over at a later time. Page layout will have pretty much exactly that, page layouts. And here you can change your margins. Mainly this is for if you wanted to print out one of your spreadsheets. The formulas tab can be a very advanced tab, but it provides you with the essential starting points for anything with formulas, like name manager. It can help with mailing lists and a whole bunch of other things. Data, pretty much anything you would want to do with data, whether it be numbers or categorical data, would be within here. Review, this is so that way, let's say I sent this to somebody else, that somebody else could add comments to it, or I could protect the sheet so that way they can't copy and paste it or print it out, or other variables on that. And then the view tab is just so that way you can view it in however you want. There's of course also the slider bar down here at the bottom, which is what most people would use anyway. And then I also have a developer tab, but that is pretty advanced. But at a later date, maybe we could go over that. So the first thing that I'll say right away is that I've done this by accident a ton of times. Let's say that your ribbon goes away. And if you're like me, I like having it open at all times so that way I can easily click on it. If you double click on the tabs, it will either go to always showing, or I would have to just single click, and then if I click back down here it goes away. So I would suggest keeping it always double clicked unless you're really trying to see lots and lots of things. Another thing that you may want to know is in these categories down here. So if I say home font, we may want to see more options within the font category, and that's what this little button down in the bottom right hand corner of this is. It's for font settings. So then it brings up a completely different dialog box with plenty of other tabs that have plenty of more options if you need it, including a protection one, which we may go over at a later date. So then the quick access tool is this bar up here. So at any point you can add to this. So let's say that day you are really pasting a lot of special characters within it. You can click on this drop down arrow, hit more commands, and then you can scroll through all of these commands down here, find what you want, add it over to this one. I already have the paste special over there, and we can always go over what paste special means at another time. But there's so many commands here that if you're doing it a lot, you can just add it to the top of the list here, and that way you can click on this as opposed to clicking anywhere else, and it may be much quicker for you. And in case you aren't aware, rows are horizontal and columns are up and down. This is the formula bar here. Anything that you type in here will also appear up at the top in this formula bar. It can be a very helpful tool. This is basically a link to the formulas tab. So then you can easily type in more functions here. So let's say if I wanted to do a VLOOKUP, I could click on this VLOOKUP here, hit OK, and then it comes up with a dialog box easily stepping me through this formula. And that works for any formula. We can go over functions in more detail at a later date. Next would be the status bar, which for me is down here in the very bottom here. Right now it says ready, but let's say that I had my caps lock on. Now it mentions, hey, your caps lock on, so that way you know that it is on. And you can always right click on the status bar and it can show you a lot of different things. So let's say that I wanted to quick see what the total of these ones were. It actually appears down in the status bar here. It tells me that there's 3 of them, the sum is 560, and the average is $186. And that can just be a quick way to do that without having to type it into the calculator or making a function in a separate cell. And that works for many, many things. So now there's 4, so on and so forth. This can be very helpful, very quick, and again, you can right click on it and change which ones you want to see. So maybe you don't ever use count. You can get rid of it so that way you don't have to keep looking at it. Then I'm going to quickly go over the different type of mouse pointers. Now, it's normal. Your normal cursor is when you're in the ribbon, so that way you can accurately click. This one is so that way you can edit text. This one is to select an entire row. If you're in between 2 rows, it shows the 2 arrows going either way. So that way you can adjust the width of them. And the same goes for rows as well, where you can change them. Then we have this blocky plus sign, and this is so that way you can select multiple cells at a time. So that way you can see you are selecting those cells. If you get all the arrows, so let's say I have clicked on this one right here. Actually, no, sorry. This cell right here really should be like this. I've clicked on this cell right here, and I get all 4 arrows there along with the normal cursor within it. So all 4 arrows means that you can move this selection. Apparently I can't do that with that. All right. You can move that selection over to a different spot without having to do cut and paste or copy and paste or however you do that. And then, as we will explain more, possibly at a later date, is that maybe I want a Monday through Friday on this. Excel does a very good job of autofilling, and that's what the skinny plus sign is when I go down to the bottom right-hand corner of any cell. So because I typed Monday in there, if I autofill these down, it will automatically suggest, hey, you should do Monday through Friday. And then I can also autofill up, and that will go up to Sunday. And I could go over this way, and it should do Tuesday. So you can do this really in whatever direction it works for your spreadsheet. Obviously, as you can see, there's all these tabs for different spreadsheets within the same one. You can add one by hitting this plus sign, and that created a spreadsheet here. You can always change, if you right click on the tab, you can change the color of the tab itself. And then there's plenty of things you can do within this as well, which we may go over at a different date. I use hide as well as move or copy. Those are probably the 2 most used. Maybe protect sheet as well. As most of you may know, so let's go back to this one here. If I were to hit enter while in this cell, it would go down. If I hit tab, it goes over to the right. If you hit shift enter, it goes back up. So basically it does the reverse of whatever you hit. So if I hit shift tab, it goes back over. I do it constantly where I hit tab instead of enter, so then I hit shift tab to reverse that instead of it grabbing my mouse and clicking on the cell again. Saves a lot of time. Then if you are clicked on one of these, you can hit Control N as well, and Control N brings up an entirely new spreadsheet. So I'm just going to exit out of that. And then with all of these different spreadsheets, maybe you quickly move in between them. If you hit Control Page Up, it actually Control Page Up and Down, it cycles through all the different spreadsheets that we have. Now this is just a sample worksheet that I got here, so it automatically has all these filled in for me. Then, last thing we'll go over here is just commenting. So let's say that I sent this to somebody for review, and then all of a sudden they look at June and are just like, huh, that's kind of weird. That probably shouldn't be like that. So they, instead of maybe copying it, or maybe they just want to tell me, hey, you should probably double check that, they could go over to the review panel, add a comment, and then they can say, I'll look at it again, and then send it back to me. And when I get it back, it would have this little red arrow here. And if I hover over it, it tells me, hey, you should do that without ever altering any of the data that's actually within this. So it's a good way to keep what's already in there and also changing it at the same time. And then you can do a lot of things with these. So if I had multiple comments in here, you can go to the next comment and previous, you can delete a comment and do all other things here. So if I had lots of things and I wanted to keep track of all of them, I could just do show all comments, so that way it shows me at all times. And that is most of it within it. And one more thing actually I should probably go over is more about the formula bar here. Now I told you that you could click this button to bring up something, but you can also type the equal sign, and then let's say, again, I wanted to do a VLOOKUP, which we'll teach you how to do at a later time, and start typing in VLOOKUP. It automatically shows up right here, and by hitting tab, it goes in it. And then this is pretty much the same dialog box as before, except of course it's not a dialog box. It's just the simplified version of doing it. This would be a little bit more step by step. If you already knew what you were doing, you could easily type it in here and it would do that. So it all starts with that equal sign. So I could even do equal sum, and then sum right there comes up. I could hit tabs to select it, and then I can click and drag and select all of these. For whatever reason I needed the sum of all of that, and then hit enter, and there it is. Another quick thing that I could show you as well is that these numbers are percentages. So if we go back over to the Home tab, this is our formatting panel. So in Home and Number, we can change whatever's in these cells to dollar amounts. We could change them percentages again. If they were really big numbers, so like this number, we can make it comma delimited. So let's say I have just an absurdly large number here. It's not even big enough to hold within the cell. We could change it to commas to show you how big that is, along with the decimal place there. Another thing you can do within a range of cells is show how many decimal places it shows. So now as I click this button, it adds more decimal places in case you need it, and if you don't need it, you can get rid of all of them. And there's plenty of other things you can do within this. You can make sure that only dates can be typed in within a certain range of cells, along with other things. and you can even make custom templates for cells, and we can go over that at a later time. And with that, I thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing all of you maybe in a class. Thank you.